to the latest episode of the Good Dram Show with me, Chris Goodrum. Right, after the last rather mammoth episode, I think it's probably about time to, shall we say, get back to normal. Right, okay, so quite a number of you have asked if I would do a how to taste whiskey episode of the show, and that's what I'm going to do today. Right, the first thing is that there is a technique in tasting whiskey, but when it comes down to sort of like the flavours that you find, the aromas, that kind of thing, that no one's right and no one's wrong. I mean, everybody's palate is attuned slightly differently, everybody's nose is attuned slightly differently, and you know, you may well pick up different notes, different aromas, different flavours to what, you know, so-called professionals may claim that are found in particular whiskies. And that's not to say that they're right and you're wrong, or vice versa. It's just that, you know, it's just basically they can everybody tastes slightly different. I mean, for me, for example, I don't tend to have sort of like a lot of salt in my diet, so even in non-coastal whiskies, I tend to pick up, you know, quite a bit of sort of salty notes, and you know, and for other people, you know, it could well be different. But the thing is, like I said, is when you taste whiskey, you know, forget about what everybody else says about it. It's the only thing that's important is basically what can you determine, what can you find in the whiskey. And like I said, no one's right, no one's wrong. There are certain techniques and certain ways of doing these things, but when it comes down to the flavours and the aromas that you find, you know, it's a purely personal thing. A lot of the aromas are kind of subjective. It's kind of, what do the aromas remind you of? And certainly, you know, one person's apple could be another person's pear, you know, or things like that. I mean, I know that's very, very simplistic. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's all about what flavours, what aromas you can find in a particular whiskey, and you know how it makes you feel. So anyway, I guess let's crack on. And like, as you probably noticed, the whiskey of choice for this afternoon is the Bruichladdich, the Laddie 16. I think it's a nice kind of whiskey to sort of show, because it's got some nice complexity, it's got a bit of maturity, all that kind of stuff. So if you happen to have a bottle to hand and want to sort of, you know, taste along with me, then great. If not, doesn't really matter, I suppose. So let's look at nosing then, shall we? Right. Okay. So now, biggest thing about whiskey, obviously, as a lot of you will probably know, is your glassware. A big tumbler, yeah, may well look kind of nice, but all the aromas are just going to sort of dissipate out. So get yourself a Glencairn, or, you know, a similar kind of vessel, which you'll notice is kind of tulip shaped, so it kind of funnels the aromas up. Now, don't breathe too hard. Initially, just a gentle inhale and note what your initial flavours, aromas that you find, because that is going to be obviously the most dominant theme of the whiskey. So let's have a look at the Bruichladdich then, shall we? Right, dense, packed fruit, apricot. That's what I initially get. I get a big wave of fruit. So that's your initial impact. Next thing to do is kind of almost ignore those aromas. I know it's kind of difficult to do, and take smaller sniffs and try and start to see beneath that and see what other complex aromas are coming out of the whiskey. So again, let's see what we can find then. So I'm getting a little bit of coastalness. The fruit has a nice sort of mature kind of edge to it. A little bit of dried fruit. And if you just keep doing that, just keep coming back to it, sort of thinking, yeah, I can get that, then kind of almost ignore that, and then sort of try and see what's beyond that. So there's a little bit of wood, a little bit of coffee, some sort of toasted oak vanillins, and then there's a little bit of hyacinth, a little sort of floral note that's now starting to develop. Now I've given the whiskey some aeration. Now I'm getting some fish oils, a little bit of linseed maybe. I mean that's a lovely nose. I mean I love old Bruichladdich or medium-aged Bruichladdich as the case may be. But basically, you might not find these aromas. You might find something completely different. It's like I said, it's all subjective. It's all what do the aromas remind you of. I mean, you can read tasting notes, and writing tasting notes is a whole different ball game altogether. Again, you have sort of people like myself that tend to sort of write in a kind of a descriptive way. I try and describe what I'm getting from the whiskey almost in the order that I'm kind of getting it at. So it's almost kind of trying to lead you through. And then you have the more sort of flowery writers that tend to use sort of terms like my granny's wardrobe, or forest floors at midnight, that kind of thing, because it's association, it's associated aromas. So I mean, one person's damp woodland floor might be another person's dunnage kind of notes. So like I say, no one's right, no one's wrong. It's just the technique is really the only important thing. So lovely nose, really nice. So onto the palate then. Right. Now this is going to be a bit difficult to explain, I suppose. Now the thing is with tasting whiskey is that you want to let it roll around the mouth. You want it to coat the mouth, because as you know, the tongue has different areas of sensitivity to salt and sweet and all that kind of sour and what have you. And the idea is basically coat the mouth with the whiskey and sort of note where the strongest flavours are. And you don't have to aerate. I mean, I do. It's kind of, it helps, because basically what you're doing is you're drawing air into the mouth and going up through the sort of like the nasal passages, and most a lot of the tasting of a whiskey is about the aromas, and certainly by drawing air in, you're sort of like enhancing the sort of like the flavours and what you kind of find there. So like I said, again, no real right or wrong way to do it. Just hold it in the mouth for as long as you feel sort of comfortable with it. I mean, normally when I'm tasting, I would probably hold it in the mouth for a lot longer than I do when I'm doing a video. Otherwise, who wants to sort of sit here watching me go for sort of 5 or 10 minutes? So anyway, let's see what the palate on this gives us then, shall we? Oh, now that's lovely. Lovely, mature Isla fruit, bit of summer fruits, meadows, barley, a little bit of fish oil, a little bit of salt, bit of honeysuckle, beautiful maturity, absolutely gorgeous. Oak starts coming through towards the finish, getting notes of sort of coffee, a little bit of hickory, a little bit of licorice. And then that's the thing. It's basically note your initial impact, because again that will be the strongest flavours, the more dominant flavours. But as you sort of work it around the mouth, sort of just think, what else am I getting there? Am I getting a bit of salt? Am I getting a bit of peat? And then as you finish, as you sort of swallow, sort of note how long the finish is. Are you getting any more flavours coming through? Like on the Bruichladdich, the wood notes were coming through on the finish, and it kind of started off with all that lovely fruit and progressed through a little bit of sort of saltiness and the fish oils and things like that, and finished with the wood notes. So yeah, lovely, absolutely lovely dram. I guess that's pretty much about it. I suppose that's all you can really say. I mean, I could sort of like go on further, but like I said, you know, at the end of the day, it's all about enjoying your whiskey, you know, and you don't have to be a complete anorak and sort of write tasting notes every time like me. But you know, keep a, you know, if you're new to whiskey, get yourself a book. You know, explore, try out the different styles of whiskey. I mean, I often say, like, you know, life's too short to stick to one particular whiskey. You know, try all the different styles. You know, if you're just beginning, you know, you can sort of do the usual route, start with a Spey or a Highland, then look at your Islands and progress onto your Islers. If you're, you know, a bit more adventurous, I suppose you can sort of go headlong for the peaty ones first, and decide whether, you know, you particularly like that style. But you know, hopefully, you know, whiskey's fun. You know, there's so many different types, so many different styles, so many different distilleries. You know, to find out that, you know, just enjoy it, and get yourself a good glass. Right. Well, that's it for this episode of the show. Hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, here's to Brooklady and good Dram.
Silence. Nothing changed.